And hitbox should be up. Any second now. Come on, come on. I guess you have to refresh then. Yeah.
It's up now.
Yeah.
Refresh? Oh, maybe I'm the one that has to refresh. Oh, there we go.
I have turned off the audio because
There we go.
weird echo.
Yeah, no one wants the echo. Alright. I think, yeah, I'm also recording this as well. Okay.
Fabulous.
Cool. Hey guys, what's going on? SuperVin47 here with the second episode of the Game Dev Podcast with my co-host, Eniko.
Hello.
From Kitsune Games. Our guest here today is the lovely Samantha Zero.
Hi, everybody.
How are you guys doing?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm doing great. It's like super sunny here in Seattle. There was like a Silent Hill fog this morning. Sun came right out, burned it all off. It's fabulous.
Nice. Okay, let's see, what do we start with? We will start with, well, I guess we'll start with topics. Anyone bringing topics?
Shouldn't we start with what we've been doing?
Oh, sorry.
This is why I'm the co-host, guys.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, what have you two been doing? I guess we'll start with our guest, Samantha.
Yeah, so, gosh, just want to say I'm super happy to be here. Thanks for having me on. I am, just for anyone that doesn't know me, I am I'm an independent developer based in Seattle. I'm making a game called Sentris, which I funded on Kickstarter at the end of the year, 2013, last year. So I'm basically, my update is I'm working on Sentris. I'm a prototyper, so I'm learning how to write shippable code, and I'm also doing a lot of prototype experiments of the game. So I just finished up the second prototype, which got sent out to the backers. It's a game all about making your own music. So I sent out a prototype that's really kind of exploring a more open-ended creation experience, like without a puzzle game aspect, which I do want to be part of the game. So both the puzzle and the free play. So that was a free play prototype, and now I'm working on the next prototype, which I'm planning to take to GDC, the Game Developers Conference in March. So I'm just I learned from the last prototype, and I'm working on the new one. Playing a couple of games here and there just to keep myself in the know about what's going on in the industry, and just working a lot. It's good.
Alright, hang on. Is that gonna show up? No? Wait, hang on. What? Hang on, sorry, I'm trying to add in the,
I see something happening on the screen.
Is it? Hang on, let me just remove that then. Alright, I'm trying to add in gameplay videos of both of your games. So, please, continue talking. I'm just working in the background.
Sure.
Oh, I'm just doing some marketing on the side for the podcast.
God.
We are the worst hosts.
Oh, good lord. I'm blah. I should have done
I have a
all
question.
this. What's up?
I have a question. So you're working on how do you say it? Sentris?
Sentris, yeah. Sentris.
So that's a music game, and I looked up a few things, and it seems like you have a very musical kind of background. So is this the first game thing you're doing, or have you done more?
I have done other games in the past. This is probably Sentris is probably the first game that's made any sort of impression on in any sort of mark or has generated any sort of interest. I started programming when I was 22.
Oh.
I was working as a software tester, so I was learning to code so that I could write software test automation and grow my career that way. But I have always loved games, and when I was little, I wanted to make games, but I had this preconception that, well, I'm not good at math, so I couldn't be a good programmer. And I can't really draw, so I couldn't be a good artist. So it wasn't until I started learning to program that I was like, well, maybe I can make games. So I had started programming in like C# with MSDN tutorials, and then I found Unity. I made a couple of really bad games with Unity. One was called Chaos Machine. That was the first game I ever made. It was kind of like a Rube Goldberg, like a crazy, what is the word? Perpetual motion machine kind of thing, where you're trying to, like, you have a ball dropper and you put these crazy like machinery pieces into this space to try to move the ball from the dropper to a goal. So like you'd have levers and ramps, and you'd have like launchers and catapults. And that game was really, really bad. And then I started working on a game called Parallel Destiny, which was kind of like a shooter type game. It was very Tron-ish, very, very simple. It was like very linear. You would just fly down this tunnel that was kind of a beautiful tunnel, and you'd be shooting these different creatures or these different beings that were sort of floating around, and depending on, and all the creatures had like a light and dark affiliation. So depending on which ones you shot more of, you'd get a different ending. And after that game, that took like 3 months with 3 guys that I knew on the Unity forum. After that, I started working on a game with that same team called Project Subdivision, and we knew that we wanted it to be a music game, and we wanted it to, I wanted it to be very like creative, like very Rez inspired, so that have a lot of influence over the sound, over the song. And so we went back and forth thrashing on this idea, and I kept having this vision of this circle. So we couldn't really figure out what this circle was. And eventually I think the other guys got really frustrated with my incessant talking about this circle, and they moved on to other projects. So at that point, it was like I had already begun working on the game that would become Sentris, but I had to put it aside for a while to just focus on my work at Unity. And during that time, I had the amazing experience of joining a band. And in that band, I sort of, again, broke through this preconception that I couldn't make music. Like these guys helped me learn how to make music. And it was so amazing that I really wanted to bring this feeling of making music to everybody. So I doubled down on this rotating circle music game, understanding finally that this circle that you're building is supposed to be the song that you're hearing. So it's really, Sentris is an important game for me because it's been something I've been working on for a long time, on and off. It's been like the first game that I've worked on that has generated this kind of interest, from the Kickstarter, and like there's been a couple of crazy articles like up on Edge Online and Gama Sutra. So it's weird that people are taking notice, but I'm really, really grateful, and I'm just happy to be working on it. And I'm working really, really hard to make it great. So I'm gone off on a big tangent from your question, but I would say that for me, music and games and my career have always been pretty closely connected.
Cool. By the way, the footage you guys are watching in the background is actually some very, very old footage that I recorded of Sentris. Oh god, it would have been
like November,
yeah. Yeah, this is the debut prototype for anyone who's watching the video. This was the version of the game that I built over the summer in 2013, and took this version to the Seattle Indies Expo that was held here in Seattle during PAX, and had a good reception. And it seemed at that point like, all right, well, maybe the game is ready to take the Kickstarter. So I did a bunch of work, and a few months later, now I'm working on this game full time, and that's absolutely incredible. It's like for the first time I'm making a living as a game developer, and that's really substantial. So Kickstarter was a really good experience for me.
So what I'm seeing here looks really cool, except I have no idea what's going on.
Oh. Okay, that's okay. I'm all right with that. I think that one of the magical parts about the game, because it's a very abstract interface, so looking at it for the first time, it's hard for me to put myself back in that place about looking at the game for the first time. But when I watch people, there's definitely a sense, there's a journey in the discovery, and the game's actually simple enough that really in this version, there's only three buttons. There's two buttons to change instruments up and down, and there's one button to play music. So all you can really do is add music to add sounds to the song that you're building, and then the puzzle the puzzle nature kind of reveals itself, and the way that objects react to each other. I'm trying to make it very discoverable so that people can pick up the game for the first time without a tutorial and just learn by doing. And with something so abstract, that's pretty challenging. But I wouldn't say it's there yet. I would say it has a long way to go. But I'm also working on these problems really regularly, and changing things, nudging things. There's still a lot missing. Like, this is still highly prototype code. So over the summer, I'm expecting to start pushing into alpha, starting in the early summer. So that'll be more of the kind of like, okay, do we need a tutorial? Then let's do this here. Or what else? Like, play testing is a big interest of mine. So what kinds of things can I learn about how people perceive the game by watching them play? And, what can I see is missing from that point? I'm not really into like letting the data dictate the game experience, but I am interested in informed design decisions based on data that I've collected from watching people play. So this is one thing that's, to me, important about the project for people that are interested in games and are curious about how they're made. Games change a lot, they shapeshift. And I'm trying to be very open about, this is where Sentris was last summer, when people start, I have another prototype that looks pretty different from this even. So what does that look like? Like, that's 2 months post Kickstarter. And even in March, which is like 5 months post Kickstarter, what will it look like then? And so I think that for people that are interested in learning about that story of the evolution of the game, that there's going to be a lot of really interesting stuff to watch as the game comes together over the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cool. Also, I think... Oh god, I had a question about like the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So when you went to, like, I'm very curious about the whole Kickstarter process. Like, when you went to debut, like, how did you market the Kickstarter? Was most of the traffic from your own efforts, or did you have to wait for some sort of snowball effect to catch on?
I did a lot of research on Kickstarter, so I was prepared to do a lot of talking about the game. I guess the way, so people talk about, what is it called? I can't remember now. Is like the bathtub. So if you, there's this concept of the bathtub where in Kickstarter projects where you'll have a big spike of interest at the beginning that tapers off very quickly, and then you'll have a big spike, like a growing spike of interest at the end of the campaign. So if you're looking at it like number of backers per day, then it looks like a bathtub because there's really tall bars on the left and right sides and very, very short bars in the middle.
Yeah. Hang on.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, so I would say that I talked about the campaign on Twitter, on Facebook as much as I could, and I tried to get people excited about it. I had a lot of supporters, a lot of backers come out and show support, and a lot of people, from like just people that I've met over the couple of years that I've been doing the indie thing, people have come out and told their network. So I think that was the reason the campaign was successful was people thought the vision and the work done so far was good enough that they wanted to tell their networks about it. It definitely got to a point where people stopped listening to me. Oh, is everything okay?
Yeah, wrong graph. Hang on.
It got to a point where, yeah, there it is.
Hang on. No.
Infant mortality decrease.
Wrong graph! This is very much the wrong graph. My bad.
This is now the Dead Baby podcast.
Listen.
Oh my goodness. What have I gotten myself into?
Oh god, I've doomed us all. I've doomed us all.
It's okay, it's the internet, nobody's watching.
Let's see. Oh god damn it. But I know the podcast you're talking about. Oh man. But yeah, it does basically look like a bathtub.
Yeah.
Just not of infant mortality. Oh god.
Infant mortality.
Oh.
Those are not words you want to put in the same sentence.
Oh god. But point made. You do get sort of spikes, I guess, at the beginning and at the end.
For sure.
Actually, we do have a term for that in psychology. It's called the primacy and recency effects, where you get the most amount of, I guess, retention early when you start off, and then when you're just about to finish.
Huh. Interesting.
Yep.
Interesting. Oh, I think I remember hearing about that. Like when you're studying, that if you read 3 chapters in a book when you're studying for a quiz or something, you're more likely to remember the first and the last chapter, and less likely to remember the middle chapter contents.
Mm-hmm.
That's fascinating.
Yep.
Yeah, I love psychology. I love. I don't have a huge degree. I don't have a huge university degree, but I got a 2-year associate's degree, and I really enjoyed learning about psychology 101 and philosophy and geology. Like that stuff was amazing to me. I also took music theory, which is kind of probably what enabled me to do this in the first place. Was that year of music theory.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm very interested in trying Sentris at some point because I make games, obviously, because there's Kitsune Games in my name there on the screen. And so I have to make music, but I used to play the guitar.
Yeah.
Long time ago. We talked about that on Twitter, didn't we?
Yeah, we did, yeah.
But now, like, nobody ever told me, like, really proper music theory or how to compose or stuff. So right now I'm using CG Music, which is like this thesis someone made on procedural music.
Oh, neat.
And
okay.
I just click random. Yes, I am Dutch. I just click random until I get something that doesn't sound awful. And I know enough about how, like, keys and stuff evoke certain feelings that I can, like, tweak it a bit, and then I run it through something that makes chiptunes and blah blah blah. But I'm very interested in seeing if I played this, if it could actually teach me how to get a feel for making a melody myself, because I've been interested in, learning how to make my own music.
Yeah. I would love. I mean, I definitely want to take the game to that place where people are learning. Where everybody's learning a little bit about how to make music. And again, this kind of like mirrors my own like journey in learning how to make music myself. I took a year of music theory and I learned about like melodies and harmonies and dominant fifths or dominant sevenths or whatever they are. I've forgotten all that stuff now. And what chords sound nice, and what chords relate to each other, and key signatures and all this stuff. I learned all this stuff, but I still felt like whenever I sat down to make music, I would think about like the math of music from music theory, and that didn't help me it didn't help me be musically creative. So even knowing that, I think there's one thing that my teacher kept saying that I didn't pay enough attention to, which was, the theory comes along to analyze and describe what's being done in works of music. So the theory usually doesn't come first. And I was really trying to approach composing music with a theory first perspective, like, oh, well, if I put this note here, like, what's going to sound good with it? Well, maybe these, I don't know. And,
yeah, that's what I try to do most of the time, and it does not work. And I know it doesn't work because I'm a visual artist, so as well as a programmer. So when I'm like working in Photoshop, I don't think like if I add this layer and then perform this series of executions, that will look good. It's just okay. I'm adding a layer and I'm trying some things and just messing around until it looks nice. And I guess it's the same process in making music.
Yeah, my big mistake was I would sit down with something like Reason to make a song, one Saturday afternoon, and I would work on it for like 4 hours, and I was learning Reason at the same time, so I didn't get very far. And at the end of the day, I would listen to what I'd made and I would compare it to the completed work of like an expert artist, professional. Like, I would say like, this song doesn't sound like the Chemical Brothers. Like, I must be total shit. And so that comparing was one trap that I kept falling into. But I think really the different, like, what I would do is I would put Reason away, and then I would delete my song, and I wouldn't come back to try again for like 6 to 8 months. And when I met musicians and started playing in this band in Denmark, I would see these guys who'd been doing this for a long time. They would have the exact same sort of struggles where they would make something and they would be playing something all day and they'd say, well, this doesn't sound very good. But instead of deleting it and then trying again from scratch in 8 months, they would just come back to the same song, a day or two later. And so just that simple act of practicing and returning to it and not just leaving it to rot, like that constant energy is sort of how the creative process works with music. So, it's kind of my secret technique just to make the game fun enough that people want to keep coming back to it, so that every time they play, they're making a song, and over time, they have this library of songs that they've made, and maybe people start to think about like, well, what if I played it this way this time? And then
just get a feel for it.
Absolutely, like that's just part of it. Just practicing, and having fun with it. Like playfulness and creativity, they go hand in hand.
So I have something to say about that, but that also ties in with what I've been doing. So, Finn? Pay attention!
I am totally paying attention.
This is a good time to ask me what I've been doing.
Alright, Eniko. I noticed you've been working on were you just working on No Way Out, or what else have you been doing? See, I've been paying attention.
Yay. Well, first off, I participated in Ludum Dare. I know you're supposed to say like Dare or something, but that just sounds stupid.
It's
so Ludum
Latin.
Dare. I know. So it doesn't even sound like, nobody knows what it sounds like.
Nope.
Anyway. So I made a game for that, and it's a point-and-click zombie adventure survival game which tries to challenge genre conventions, as it were. And the funny thing is, it did quite well. I got 36th overall for the compo, I think. But I got fourth in audio.
Nice.
Which is very interesting. But what interests me is that the game doesn't actually have any music.
It's just a heartbeat, I believe. Right?
Heartbeat and zombies. It's actually fairly minimal in music. I use the zombie sample, which is on loop. I use the heartbeat sample, which is just a synth kind of thingy. There's the gunshot, and then there's the beepy noise. and that's it, actually. So I don't know if Samantha has anything, to say about that, because she doesn't know the game. But it seemed very interesting to me that because the audio supported the mood so well, I got 4th place in audio, and I totally wasn't expecting it, because there's like people who know music and stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, audio is everything that you hear. So, like, for me, the creative process is so strange because you never know how something you're doing is going to be perceived by other people. So if if your game's audio sounds very minimal, and that, there's a beauty in simplicity. And if if the audio creates a mood that supports the sort of feeling that you're trying to evoke with the game, then that's good audio. And that can be minimal, I think that the first Amnesia was, had a lot of recognition in its use of audio, and it would often use audio to suggest the presence of a monster without showing the monster. So that's, and that works because people go, oh, I can hear it, but where is it? Like, now I'm afraid because I have to run away from this thing I can hear, but I don't know where it is. So that just worked.
I'll admit to not being able to play Amnesia because I'm too much of a chicken.
It's fear of the unknown. Like if you take the reality of it, the monster's not there. It's not going to hurt you, but you hear it, and then that raises like, where is it? I don't know. It could be anywhere. It's the fear of not knowing, and I feel like that's what gave Amnesia the Dark Descent, not the new one.
Yeah, not Machine for Pigs. Yeah.
No. What gave?
I could play that one.
Yeah. See. Because like there's no urgency. You hear it, like in Dark Descent, you hear the monster. It's getting closer, but you still don't know where it is.
Yeah.
In A Machine for Pigs, a lot of the horror is just purely atmospheric. Like there's no
or psychological, as in what you've seen has transpired before, but not what's going on right now.
Yeah, it's all build up, but there's no punch. There's no follow through. In Darkness,
the problem with that game in specific was, especially the well, this is going to be spoilers, so don't listen if you don't want spoilers. At some point when you're in town and you see the monsters and it's scripted and you realize that you're in no danger whatsoever because it's scripted. And that just takes away all of the punch of the game for me.
Yeah, horror is really tricky. I think, wow, I would love to make a horror game at some point, but there's just so much of that like finesse required to make something work, to evoke fear in a player. I don't know.
Vin, do you think No Way Out counts as horror?
I mean, I'm watching it.
I made it, but I have no idea.
I'm watching it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Not in... hang on, let me throw it back up here. Not in the standard sense. It's more so, like, I would say it's a subgenre of sense of impending doom.
Wow, I've made a subgenre.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Like, it's... When you think horror game, you think, jump scare. You think crap your pants. This game, I would say, is purely build up.
Yeah, it's like tension.
Yeah. It's that's why I say make it a subgenre, sense of impending doom.
Nice.
It's like the if A Machine for Pigs was instead a prequel, then that would also be sense of impending doom. You know, like if the whole character's build up was to die at the end, but the entire game is just is just like eating away at you. You know,
I could see that.
That's where I would see it on the spectrum.
Oh, major massive spoilers right there.
My bad. I failed the internet.
It's okay.
Here's my Twitter page.
I think all the people who are going to play that game have already played it.
Oh yeah. But
well, except maybe Samantha, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it looks really amazing. Like, it looks definitely like it's evoking a huge amount of tension in the play. Like, especially with the way you described the heartbeat sound. I have the sound off on my computer because I don't want to get the echo chamber going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it looks fascinating. So I would say definitely, like, to me, it looks like it is, yeah, again, that buildup of tension in the way that you want in a horror game. I mean, there's a timer in your game, so there's always that kind of like that. It's almost like what is it? Like an anchor. So like you can always like come back to looking at that timer and know that this, that something's going to end eventually. So in that regard, like, I think the only one difference that between that and Amnesia is like you don't have a timer in Amnesia, so you never know if the horror is about to begin or end or what. So that
is a good point.
But with the timer, there's some other interesting. It presents other different interesting constraints. So I would love to play it for myself. And I mean, I hope that I haven't spoiled everything that there is in the game, but definitely like this, like that sense of building tension in an experience is not easy to do. So I would love to, I'd actually love to hear more about like your inspiration for that game and what you were thinking about as you went forward building it and trying to create that atmosphere.
Wow, that's a big question.
No pressure,
Just drop this bomb of a question on you and walk away.
Yeah.
Well, and clearly I'm taking over as host.
Well, it's always when that competition starts, I stay up until like 2 or 3 a.m. because that's when the themes are announced. And then I invariably go like, oh my god, this theme sucks. Because it's not the theme I want. I think everyone has that experience when they enter this competition.
Yep.
And then you sit down and you brainstorm with someone and you deal with it and you come up with an idea. And the theme was you only get one. And I don't know how I decided it, but I was watching a lot of horror games being played by this YouTube guy called Markiplier.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's pretty big. And it seemed to me like, yeah, they were, scary, but a lot of them were jump scary because in the end you know that you can win because it's a game and games are winnable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with zombie games, it's always like, well, you have lots of guns and you have health medkits, and if you get locked in somewhere, there's a way out. And what I wanted to do was to challenge genre conventions at first. But then, you go to bed and you're half asleep and you're mulling things over. And I realized that one of the things I really wanted to do, and the audio came from that, is when you're panicked, you can't think straight. You get all these useless thoughts in your head that don't help at all. Like, for instance, if you're playing Amnesia and you're panicking and you're thinking like, oh, the monster's going to get me. Where is it? It doesn't really matter where the monster is as long as you're not going in that direction.
Yep.
Right.
As long as you're staying calm.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you're staying calm. And I really wanted to transfer that feeling to the player. So the first day, I actually didn't make any gameplay at all.
Wait, this was a 48-hour thing, right?
Yeah, 48 hour. So the first day, I didn't have any gameplay. I had a graphic of the room with the guy. It's not even a guy or a girl. I made it, purposefully ambiguous so people could project. And so the first thing I did was like the panic thoughts system.
Uh-huh.
because if the thoughts are cluttering your screen, it's hard to focus. So you feel the same way that the character is.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, like, well, if you're panicking, then your heart rate starts going up.
Yep.
And I already tied the thoughts to a panic level variable, so I could just set the panic level from 0 to 1 and anything in between, and it would, do the right thing. So then I just tied the heartbeat speed and the volume to that same variable. And then I added the zombies in the background, which grow noisier as time goes on. And I thought all of that, really supported the idea of panic and being tense and under stress. And it was actually funny because I couldn't leave the game running in the background while I was working on it because the heartbeat actually unnerved me so much.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the second day I did all like the gamey logic
Okay.
and some sequences and stuff.
That's great. I love how you started from this point of, I want to induce a particular feeling, and then built that, like, the feeling engine first.
Yeah. It was an
yeah.
interesting way of developing a game because usually, you always start with the mechanics, and that was the first time I did the other way around, and it wound up really working for me.
That's amazing. I feel like all my games should have a feeling engine.
Yeah,
forward.
I'm definitely thinking that I'm going to be doing this in the future too. It depends on the game though. If it's just like a stupid, racing game, then you don't really need that.
Now, what about a game about candy?
Oh God. yeah. Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it. Let's get stuck in there. Come on. Topics of the week. This week
be a big one.
This week has been very eventful, actually. If you think about it, a lot of stuff's been happening.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, Andres. Bye. There we go. All right. Seriousness.
Wait, he's leaving?
No. I'm just turning off his video because we're not talking about horror games right now.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. Let's get into it. Which one do you want to start with?
Well, I guess we're on candy now. So
All
that's
right.
the other thing that I've been doing.
Does anyone have the was it Candy Jam, right?
Candy Jam, yeah, hashtag.
All right.
I've been working on a racing game, Super Candy Kart Saga.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be like
Oh, this one is...
Super Mario Kart meets Sugar Rush from Wreck-It Ralph, basically.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Okay.
What's your yeah, do we need to give some background about what the Candy Jam is and why it is?
Yeah, we definitely need to.
Yeah, please.
Also, I am making that with the talented Stoven, who you should totally add on Twitter.
Link me his... Oh, never mind.
That guy.
Okay, that guy. Boom.
Super cool.
So who wants to get into elaborating on the background of the Candy Jam?
I can do it if neither of you two want to.
Well, you are the host, so
All right.
it is kind of your job.
Wow!
Damn!
Wow! Calling me out, Miss Co-host. Miss, I want to be a co-host on your show. But
Look, I'm like Dodger. I just sit here being quiet and ribbing on you occasionally.
Yep. Okay. Alright, so, for those of you guys who do not know what the whole candy mess is, so, King's Game is a prominent developer. I'm not going to say popular, because that would denote a positive connotation.
Yeah.
So, they're very prominent, they're very well known, they work with EA, I believe, or are they their own entity? That I do not know.
I think
I think
King.com is their own.
Yeah, they're independent.
Okay, so King Games made the. Let's see. I'm gonna put up an image of Candy Crush actually. There it is. I'll say okay. So King.
Warning: may cause addiction by looking at it.
Yep. It's such a stupid game. It's such a stupid game. I'm telling you guys. So while I'm doing this, King's Game basically made the game Candy Crush. It's sort of like a Bejeweled knockoff.
It is a
Uh-huh.
Bejeweled knockoff.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's basically a Bejeweled knockoff. It's there's no gameplay whatsoever. It's stupid. But somehow it got very popular on the mobile market. So
And Facebook, I think.
and Facebook. So it's basically mobile game crack. Pretty
Yeah,
much.
basically.
It's heavily monetized. It's free to play, but goddamn if it's not the dumbest system I've ever seen.
With very dubious ethics.
Very, very dubious.
Is it a pay to win game?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's done in a way like it gives you the feeling that it's not pay to win
it's
by
insidious.
very gradually ramping up the difficulty, and by the time you're hooked like a week or something in, then suddenly the difficulty is like switched to impossible, and you have to start inviting people and paying for stuff to keep progressing.
Oh,
Yep.
jeez.
Basically the worst type of free-to-play model that exists.
Yep. It's really okay. So, what happens with Candy Crush, with the King's Game, is that they went on to trademark the word candy. As in, trademark is not copyright. Trademark basically means like no one else can use it.
Uh-huh.
It's not I don't copyright involves invention, but
yeah.
but for trademarking you can take possession of a previous entity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can copyright a work, but you can trademark a name.
Yeah.
Well,
That's,
trademarks are also a bit more than names, although in this case it is pretty
A word.
specifically about the words.
Mhm.
You can also have like symbols and imagery, like the exact composition of the reds and whites in a Coca-Cola
Yeah,
thingy
yeah,
is
yeah.
also trademarked.
Totally.
So King Games basically trademarked the word candy. And that is ridiculous because the word candy has been around for centuries, I believe. Well, not centuries, 1800s maybe? Let me look up the history of the word candy.
Well, the weird thing is they also trademarked it in because you have to pick categories like software or education or clothing or cleaning products. Apparently, there's an Angry Birds cleaning products trademark. I don't know why the hell that exists, but whatever.
Wow.
Yeah, and they actually have clothing, even though there's obviously a lot of international companies already using candy in their branding, in their clothing branding. So,
Yeah.
and they also trademarked Saga, or they're trying to trademark Saga. I'm not quite sure, but Saga means a Viking epic.
Yep, they're trying to trademark Saga as well. Candy Crush Saga.
Yeah,
Yep.
Because-
you know what? Why not go for all three?
that kid in that picture is totally a Viking. I can tell a Viking when I see them.
That is a Viking-ass Viking bow.
Yep.
Mm,
They
the
didn't.
Vikingist.
They didn't trademark Candy or Saga. They trademarked Candy Crush Saga. Are you sure? Are you sure? Like I feel like they.
No, I heard they traded Candy Crush and also Candy, and they were trying to trademark Saga, but that got denied on a technicality. But they're still trying to reapply for it. That's what I heard.
Let's see. I'm looking at the rock paper shotgun right now, and yeah, they are trademarking the word candy. Yep. Just candy.
And so, what? And then but there's been a response, right?
From
Not really.
From King's Games?
No, from the community.
Well, there's nothing we can do, can we?
No.
Well, but people are trying to do something, right?
Well, there's the Candy Jam.
Yeah. So what's the Candy Jam is in response to this trademark, right?
Yes.
Yeah, a bunch of developers were like, well, we do what we always do when we have to deal with grief in the community. We're going to make some games.
Yep. Yep.
I
you've got until
I want to do a candy game. I want to do a candy jam game. I don't know exactly what I would do though. But now remind me that the candy jam has no predefined start and end. It's not like a Ludum Dare, right?
well, there is an quote unquote official end, so it runs until February 3rd. But I was talking to some other devs because this hasn't been pre-announced, so it's kind of hard to drop everything and make another game when you're already, have stuff planned because we're all busy.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were like, well, I want to, participate, but I don't have the time. And I asked the guy, and he said, well, it says February 3rd, but you can just, submit after that. It's no big deal. And it's not about the competition. It's about the signal that it sends to King Games. I'll probably not get done before February 3rd.
Yeah. Last week I met Alex Austin, who, correct me if I'm wrong, is the creator of Gish. And we got to chatting, and I loved Gish. I played it years ago, so it was neat to meet him. And then he let me see a little project he's working on, and there were these. I don't know how much he wants me to say about it, but I'll just say that there's epic, like, bouncy physics. If you know Gish, then you can expect some good physics. And so this game had these characters that would kind of spongy spring around and wobble on collision and stuff like that, and it was super charming. So I want to ask him if I can, like, use his algorithm, or if he would help me make, like, spongy characters or gummy characters.
Wow.
So
nice.
I want to do like a gummy candy game with like all about bouncing.
I
This
love
sounds
it.
amazing.
I love it. I love the concept. I would play the fuck out of that.
It reminds me of, like, the Gummy Bears. There was Alicia Keys did this cover of the Gummy Bears theme song. If you do a Google search, for Alicia Keys Gummy Bears, she does this amazing cover of the Gummy Bears theme song, which, being a child of the 80s, just made my heart, explode with delight and rainbows and everything. But it's amazing. I don't know if you can pump it in to the podcast, but it'd be neat to have just, like, a couple moments of her singing that. It's really, really funny.
Okay. Let me just put it on up. Yeah, I'm sure Vivo will not begrudge us a few moments. And if they do, they will answer to me. In all my righteous fury.
Yeah. I don't know what your take is on, like, all the content ID matching and stuff like that, but don't do anything that would compromise the podcast for yourself,
no.
okay?
No. Don't. I won't.
So to get back to the King.com thing, because there's more. So they not copyright, trademark. They trademark Candy Crush and Candy and Saga, or they try to. Anyway, at first King is like shutting down a couple apps that were keyword stuffing on the App Store. So, at that point it was still like, well, this sucks, but fair enough, because they were obviously not above board,
Yeah.
And people were actually, a couple people were, siding with them and saying, well, they have to, and blah, blah, blah. And then, like, I think it was the same day it was announced that they were opposing the trademark that the Banner Saga filed for the Banner Saga, that franchise about Vikings traveling through the Northern Wastes. So that's actually a flipping saga.
Yeah.
Try not to curse, because, family friend.
Oh, okay. Well, crap.
And that was like the moment that they lost all high ground, and apparently King.com said, well, we don't want to go after them, but we have to, because law says we have to, or we'll lose the trademark. But they don't even have the trademark yet.
That's bullshit.
So it's like, yeah, you're just being douches right now.
It sounds like a legal department with not enough to do.
Clearly not.
See, the thing is, I don't think King.com is a very ethical company with ethical business practices. I mean, I'm doing a minor right now on neuroscience and epigenetics, which sounds really smart but isn't. And we've actually done a piece on the ethics of free-to-play models, and it's made me uncomfortable thinking about how, because one of my group mates is a recovered gaming addict, and now I'm suddenly thinking about what the responsibility us game devs have in, gaming addiction. And I know we don't bear the full responsibility, but we do bear a bit. And if you go for a model that exploits addictive qualities of games to finance your entire game, then you're basically picking on people who are mostly invisible because of the taboo to prey on their money, basically.
Yeah, as an ethical question, like, it's really a sticky situation. A lot of what's going on in the free-to-play social space. I've heard stories about people using psychologists to, analyze data and just put in aspects to the games that are the most exploitative and the most kind of preying tactics, not to say a prayer, but to prey on prey, to prey on a creature. Yeah, this whole I don't know. It's almost. I've read some stuff that compares it to the psychology of gambling, where you get addicted to pulling that lever and watching those slots go again and again and again, just feeding money to get this sort of rush of what is it, serotonin rush, or is that no, not dopamine. I think it's a serotonin rush in your brain. It's really, really ethically
getting
wrong.
Getting into Vince territory now.
Dopamine is my territory.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, actually. Well, I had a whole discussion of Eniko, but anyway, back to the point.
Well, I'm thinking a lot. I mean, the point to me is we shouldn't be manipulating players. And a lot of these social game companies are using manipulative tactics.
They're using psychology
to make all this money. I would say that they are using the knowledge of psychology to manipulate players' actions, and I think that that's really an ethically poor decision. I think that I have no sympathy, and I mean, honestly, it pisses me off that people would do this, because as a person who's very passionate about games and the quality of games and high quality experiences, look at a game, well, maybe this is fresh in my mind because I was at the Valve conference, but look at Dota 2.
Oh.
Dota 2 has, it's free to play.
Yes, it is.
It has 6 million people playing it practically religiously. And there's a ton of money that goes into the game that's not, none of it's required. None of it, it's not pay to win. It's pay to enjoy the game.
What kind of model does Dota 2 use? Does it same as League of Legends, where you just buy skins and access to new characters?
I think that that's mostly the case. Most of what's going on is cosmetic, but there are some. There are a collection of items that have stat alterations. I think they're all pretty balanced. And but I mean, I don't know for sure, but what I'm comfortable saying is that there's no, you can win without paying money. You can engage in combat, and you can use strategy, and you can build up your skills as a good player of the game without ever paying any money.
And that's definitely the model that you would use if you're trying to be ethical, I think. But the problem I really have with the pay-to-win model, because a lot of these companies, I think, know that the discussion about those free-to-play models is going to focus on, fairness in gameplay, and how is this model affecting the gameplay. And nobody's going to be thinking about, well, you're actually preying on people who are psychologically, I don't want to say weak,
Well,
you know what I
vulnerable,
mean?
vulnerable
Vulnerable, yeah.
to like, if
Exploitation, basically.
yeah,
And they know they're not those people are not going to be hurt, so they can be safely exploited without getting branding damage, which is just awful.
Mm-hmm.
And like Vin was saying, we talked about this the other day because I'm doing, this minor, and we did an experiment because there's been a lot of writing on, game addiction, and there's been some studies, but they're like self-reporting or
yeah,
anecdotal,
yeah,
or they look at people who play, like, say, World of Warcraft, which is obviously a very complex system. There's a lot of psychological elements going on there.
oh
Yes.
yeah,
Yep.
So what we did was we did an experiment where you get a pre-test which calculates your sadness, anger, anxiety, and happiness levels, and then you get a very minimal game where you just colored cubes appear and bounce around, and then you click them and you get a score. And
okay,
the interesting part is, and this is, I've actually been kind of out of sorts since we figured this out. Playing these games has a significant, very strongly significant effect on reducing sadness. And when
Really?
we added feedback into the mix, because one version is just you're just clicking and you don't know what's going on, and one is like you see your score and your level, and if you click you see great or good or okay or poor and how many points you got,
yeah,
and we noticed that the feedback also has a very strong, significant effect on how long people keep playing. On average, they played 50% longer.
huh,
So we can actually make a few, assumptions from this, that even the mechanical actions in gaming will actually reduce stress, I guess. And if you give players feedback, they will keep playing. So,
right,
and that again feeds into the vulnerable thing, because other studies also found that gamers who suffer the most game addiction are often the gamers who have underlying psychosocial problems, like social anxiety or depression or stress or that sort of thing. So, that just adds on top of the whole evidence that I have that these models prey on people who are already in a bad place and already vulnerable. And it makes me feel kind of queasy.
So on this briefly, I don't know when we need to move on to the next thing, but
Yeah,
I want to share this story from a couple months ago.
Oh, okay.
I went down to Portland, drove down to Portland to watch the one and only Jonathan Blow give a talk, and I didn't know what his talk was about. It was for this Creative Mornings, I think it's called, and there's like, many cities that do these once a month. People will just come give a talk. And John talked all about, it was kind of amazing. He drew this parallel between like syndicated television from the 1970s and their model of building content, television content based around this commercial model where you show a few minutes of the show and then you cut to commercials, and then you show a few more minutes of the show and you cut to commercials, and things that they had to do in the writing or the production to keep people from changing the channel during the commercials. So they wanted people to watch the commercials and then keep watching the show, right? So he compared this as separate from the feature film model, which is just you pay your money and you're already sitting in this theater for 2 hours. He compared this television syndicated thing to the current free-to-play landscape, where you have these companies that have seen, like, we can make money from these kinds of gates and gatekeeping.
Yeah.
Just like the TV producers were like, we can make money from these commercials, but then they have to shape the content based around that restraint. So, what kinds of decisions are game designers who want to be designing great games, what kind of boundaries are they working within to satisfy like the business need, like the business model? And that business model is inherently kind of like sneaky around, putting up a gate and then asking players to pay to pass through the gate. And he made the argument that designing to those constraints is the equivalent of designing a schlocky 1970s, like the $6 Million Man kind of crappy television show. And it was kind of funny because I didn't watch the $6 Million Man growing up, but he showed a clip, and looking at it now, like, that show was garbage, but it was at the time perceived to be like, primetime television, So, the primetime like free-to-play games on social networks and mobile are the primetime television of the 1970s. Like, that is an amazing comparison. If he ever gives that talk again, I'm sorry for spoiling all that content, but it's a good talk. So if you get the chance to watch it, you should.
Yeah, I might look that up.
Okay. On that note, we are reaching the 1 hour mark of the podcast, so how about we move on to some Q&A? I got some questions from Dap.
Can I say one more thing about King.com, please? Please?
Alright, what's up?
Okay, so this came out the other day. Apparently, they had this one little indie developer who were making a pretty derivative game, admittedly, but they were new. And they were, in contract negotiations with them, and they got a better offer from a different company. And so they left for the other company. And apparently King.com approached another developer and was like, these guys were under contract with us and they broke contract, which is not true. And we want you to clone their game, and if you can, have it out before their game. So, King.com is basically Satan. Is what I'm trying to say. It's basically everything that's wrong with this industry and everything that indies are supposed to not be.
They are the dark side of indies, clearly.
Yes, they are Darth Vader of indies.
Well, there's nothing indie about King.com, is there?
Not anymore.
Not anymore, no.
Yeah.
They've gone all the way.
Rogue.
Yeah.
I didn't know they were ever indie. I always perceived them as like big budget.
I would imagine before they made their hit with Candy Crush and all the mobile games, they were relatively indie.
Yeah.
But
Well, they were doing they were a platform. They've always had, I mean, as far as I've known, they've always had a huge audience of women playing, a lot of moms and grandmothers. And have been like making games tailored to that audience and making a lot of money from it. So they were always kind of, I mean, to me, like, they were always like a publisher, publicly traded,
fair.
like money centric. I think the nice thing about being indie is we can be product centric, and we can be focusing on how to build and what to build as the best experience. But a company that size, they're just worrying about how much money they're going to make.
never. No, come on. How ubiquitous they are? They're basically on every mobile platform.
Mm-hmm.
And they're Satan. So,
And they're Satan.
Being Satan never helped.
Nope.
No.
Hang on. Let me just adjust these properties.
So that's King.com.
Yep. King.com is also...
So we're not talking about the indie static thing.
We can talk about it, but I want to get through some...
That does need some talking about
I
eventually.
want to get through some viewer questions first, so to make sure they get feedback before... Because I know if we talk about the indie static thing, it will take basically until the end of the podcast.
Yeah. I'm okay going 3 hours, just for the record.
But is Samantha okay?
I think I got a call in about 45 minutes.
45
Okay.
minutes. Okay, so let's answer some viewer questions, and then we'll talk about the indie static thing until Samantha has to go. Alright?
Okay.
Okay. Alright, so DapGick typed in some questions. First of all, formal code learning via university, is it necessary? Do you guys, or are both of you like self-educated?
I'm self-educated, like, completely. So I think, no, it's not needed. I think college degrees in general are completely overrated, and you could do better things with the money that it takes. I know that's a controversial opinion, but that's my opinion.
Okay.
I also didn't receive any education in code in a university class. I describe myself as self-taught, but I have had teachers. So that self-taught is kind of a misnomer. I have had people give me instruction about like, well, this is what scope is, and this is what a property is, and this is a function. But I would say that I've spent probably, that like receiving that instruction has been 1% of my time programming. So most of it has been in there myself, coding, doing things, and going and learning from there.
Okay. Well, the question was like formal learning, like college. Like, did you get a programming degree or something like that? Like,
no, I have an Associate of Arts from a community college here called Shoreline Community College.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't take any computer programming classes. I learned programming like I mentioned, I was working as a tester, and one of the guys there started teaching, offering little night, like 1 or 2 hour night classes for a month. So started with that, and definitely am asking questions of asking programming questions to people who are better programmers than me. But I would say the vast majority of my learning has just been like by doing. So I would say it's more important to have a project that you're passionate and want to work on that requires you to code than it is to enroll in a class or to get a degree.
Okay.
I agree. Plus, nowadays we have Stack Overflow, so
Oh yeah, and yeah, there's so much code learning material out there on the internet. Like, with like it takes time and it takes effort, but like with an hour a day, you can probably become a competent programmer in like a month.
Yeah, and like I said, with Stack Overflow, it's like if you ever have this feeling like, oh, how do I do this ridiculously obscure niche thing? I have no idea. You just type it into Stack Overflow, and it's like, oh, there's someone who specializes in that field of programming who knows everything about it and is explaining it to me. So,
Okay.
What's a college gonna do?
Okay, well, I guess I'm the only one here with a uni degree. But then again, it's not in coding, so.
Well, I'm about to graduate from a bachelor's degree, so I might be a bit biased from just being fed up.
Just hating it? Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, next question. Also from DapGig. What is the most tedious part of making games?
Almost everything.
Well, there you go, buddy.
Well, let's see here. Tedious. Tedious is an interesting question. So, to me, what's tedious is working through a problem. So, like, writing code is the easy part. The hard part is knowing how you want to write it. And so if I'm faced with a problem, like right now, like I have this system in Sentris that makes these blocks stack like around the circumference. And I'm working on a refactor to change these blocks to stack along the radius. So, it's just a change in how these objects are put together. I know, like, it's not tedious to write the code to stack it around the radius. It's not tedious to write the code to stack around the circumference, but having a system that supports both and figuring out, like, how to do like that logic flow, figuring that out is the tedious part. Once I figured it out, actually writing it is pretty easy. But sometimes it does require like, well, what if I try it this way? And starting to write code, understanding that I may run into a wall, or I may find a case that I hadn't predicted, or there may be some incompatibility with another class somewhere. That stuff is the tedious part. For me, like, I'm a designer first and a programmer second. So I really just want to write the code to explore the ideas. And so I find it tedious whenever I'm slowed down in exploring the designs because of my lack of expertise in like systems design. And so that and it always, like, it just takes time to work through, but it is a little bit tedious. Like, those are the parts that I wish went faster because I just want to test out everything.
That's
Okay.
amusing though, because I'm like the other way around. Like, I like thinking about problems and code structure and how to do things in the best way, and then eventually I've got it figured out, and then all that's left is writing it down, and that's the tedious part for me.
Yeah.
But I
Interesting.
do mean that when I said that everything about game making is tedious, I do mean it, because people have like this romantic image of game development that it's all fun and games, and it's not fun and games. There's very little gaming involved in making games, and there's truthfully very little fun involved in making games unless you find that sort of thing fun.
I do love it, like when I see an idea that when I'm implementing like an idea that I've been thinking about for a long time, and I have been imagining it in my head and just waiting for the code to get there. Like when it first starts to work, like that's absolutely delightful to me as a
Yeah,
creator.
that
Like
is
just,
very
oh my
cool.
gosh, like this thing that I didn't know, like I didn't know if it was going to work or not, like it's working and it's going to be good, and you can just like see the potential, but it's
Hmm.
not, done yet. Like I love that. Like that's so rewarding. Like those are the moments that keep me going.
Yeah, but for all the good parts, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're doing code or if you're doing art or if you're doing sound or if you're doing music or if you're doing anything. I mean, it's just a lot of work. So eventually there's going to be tedious moments and everything.
Mm.
It's just, making games is work in
Yeah,
the
it is
end.
work. It's work for sure.
Mm. Okay. Oh wow, this next question might be a bit involved. So, how do you two feel about the way Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, like big publishers, are treating games, indie games in marketplaces? And is there anything they can improve on?
Huh.
Yeah.
I feel like I can't say very much here. I am actually under NDA with Nintendo and
Oh.
Sony.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So I shouldn't say anything really.
Okay.
I will say, I mean, I was lucky enough to go to the Sony conference at
Mhm.
Kickstarter, not Kickstarter, at PAX. Like being there and seeing Sony's just outrageous support of all these different indie games, and like Octodad with Move support,
Uh huh.
that was really neat. And just seeing their list of developers that they had been talking to about putting stuff on their marketplace is really like they're making a big effort. I think Sony has learned a lot of lessons from
Mhm.
the PlayStation 3 life cycle, and I think that they're doing a great job of reaching out. Nintendo, I think I love Nintendo. I would like
Okay.
love to make a game for a Nintendo system. Like I grew up on playing Super Nintendo, so I'm
Ooh.
still
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
talking about Nintendo still makes me feel like a kid.
Yep.
And I can't commit to anything, but I would love to put Sentris on Wii U. I think that would be a really great experience for that market.
That actually segues to the next question. But
Yeah.
continue your answer.
Let's see. Microsoft, I've talked to some people that are working with them, and they seem to be there with like the ID at program. They're taking a very pragmatic approach to sort of roll out to more and more developers, so that they can handle supporting as many people as they want to. And I understand. I've been in big organizations that have that management of like scale. What is the word? Management of scale problem, I guess. So, they seem, I think everyone's like trying to be as friendly to indies as they can. It's just everyone's like taking their own approach. And that's good. That's good. Diversity's good.
Okay. All
I
right.
have no input on this
All right.
because I am PC gaming master race, so
Well, okay. There's your answer for the next question. Next question from Dapgig is platform preferences.
PC.
Yeah, I mean, PC,
That
like,
was easy.
PC makes so much sense. Like, this is why Sentris is coming out on PC and Ouya first, because just, the people that love indie games, people that are looking for news on indie games and talking to other people about indie games, these people, people of all genders, are on computers. And like it just makes total sense for someone to read about a game and then click a link and then they're playing it right in their browser, or they're downloading a file and then they can just play it. Like that is a no-brainer. So I
And there's
figure
no
if
gatekeepers.
yeah, exactly. And you know, and there's the Steam ecosystem as well for the people that want to go there.
Yep.
But that's a whole like that's basically like working with a publisher. Um, and so I don't know. I think the PC, like if Sentris cannot succeed on PC, how can I ever expect it to succeed in smaller markets like PlayStation or Wii U or
Okay. Yep.
Xbox One, you know?
I like how you call all the consoles smaller markets.
Yeah.
Well, they are. They are, you know? Like think about how many millions and millions of PCs are out there. PCs, Mac, and Linux, and like
It is ubiquitous.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
I have some choice words to say about Valve, but I'll leave that for some other time.
Okay. All
That
right.
sounds good.
If I get started on that, we'll be here for like 4 hours.
Please don't. Please, God, no. I'm the one that has to edit this.
We should get to the anti-static thing, I think.
All right. But
I mean-
two questions from Solon Cubed. First one, how much do you love donuts, Sam?
You know, I go down the street to the Top Pot Donuts here on Capitol Hill about once a week, and I get myself an apple fritter and a coffee,
Ooh.
and I enjoy that donut. So trust me, I am a fan of donuts.
Oh, there's your answer, Solon. Also, second question from Solon, how has
Yeah.
post-Kickstarter life been for you?
Wow, it's been crazy. Like, I feel like my life has sort of doubled in speed since I launched that Kickstarter, because it was an entire month of just working to talk about the game to as many people as possible. And now that the campaign has been successful, I'm almost like buried in other tasks. Like I've got one T-shirt design done, but I want to do 2 more T-shirt designs. I need to get the poster finished. I need to do the 3D printed model, which that idea has been evolving a lot too. And on top of all that, like I have you know, the tax business stuff to deal with, and I have a game to finish making. So
Yeah.
I've been trying to like keep focused on making the game as great as possible. Like the game is my #1 priority. And if the game is great, then no one is going to care about the merchandise. You know, I really am trying to do the best thing to for my backers. So life has been really good. Like it's finally settled in that I'm now making a living as a game designer because of my backers, and that is huge. Like I am so appreciative, and so I am just like working all the time, and you know, trying to have fun with my life, and like, you know, see my girlfriend and go visit friends and my family. But I would say that my life this year, because of the Kickstarter, is predominantly working, and it's going to be that way until the game ships. But like, and it's exhausting to be perfectly honest, because I know I have that time limit, right? The money's going to run out at some point.
Yep.
So I'm trying to get the game done, and so I would say life has been good, stressful but good.
All right. Cool.
Also, queer developers, yay!
Okay.
Yes, queer creators, so sweet.
I'm the
It's
odd
amazing
man
how-
out.
Yeah,
I'm the
you're
odd man out.
outnumbered.
Yep.
You can be our what's the word? You can be a queer for a day. You can be part of the club today.
Okay. Sure. Sure. Let's go for it. I'm not sure how some people would feel about that, but sure. Let's do it. Vin can be gay for pay. Thank you very much. Card. You bastard. Gay to win. Ooh. Hashtag that. That's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I guess we are going to talk about the Mattingly incident now. I believe, Sam, you have a couple minutes left.
Yeah, I have a few.
Okay. Cool. Well, all right then. Let's talk about the the Mattingly thing.
Yeah.
But
How do you even start talking about that?
Careful.
Very.
Have you heard about this, Samantha?
I have.
Okay.
Who has not?
I know.
Really. Also, apple fritters.
Maybe someone who is listening hasn't heard about it.
Okay. All right. So Oh my god. Also apple fritters. Um,
Oh man, apple fritters are so good. Those look delicious. I want to go get one right now.
all right. Well, so actually, I don't really know how this started. To
So
be,
I can give it from my experience how that story unfolded.
please do.
I think I was on Facebook and I saw someone had posted an image that was highly censored. So there was no indication of who were the two people in this conversation, but it was clearly one male person talking to a female person about a local game studio and a project, and then derailed into what appeared to be pretty unwelcome sexual advances. And then later in the day, the identities of these people were revealed, and it kind of went from there.
Yeah, I got up on Twitter. Well, I got up on Twitter. No, I got up and then I went on Twitter, and I was seeing all these tweets about it, and I was like, oh my god, I've slept through another, indie dev drama thing again. And I looked it up and I was just appalled at what I saw. I don't know if we should quote what he said.
We shouldn't.
No,
No.
but just tell he was very inappropriate to her.
Extremely. And the worst part of it was still censored when I was reading up on it, and eventually other people supplied the uncensored version, and it was just freaking terrible. And, the weird part is, you can tell that the woman in this conversation is extremely uncomfortable and just trying to get away from this conversation, but she doesn't want to, offend the journalist, because if you offend a journalist as a developer, you don't want to do that.
Let's be clear. Josh Mattingly is the co-founder of Indie Static. He's not just a normal journalist. He is the CEO.
Yeah, but I don't want to... all of this news and stuff, it's all been focusing on Mattingly, and frankly, I don't think he deserves the attention. So that's why I'm trying not to talk about him as much as possible, because what I saw going on the side was, guys victim blaming and being like, well, why didn't she stop it? It's like, what the hell?
Yeah,
you see this guy being totally gross, and you see her being clearly uncomfortable and trying to be professional.
And it's all her fault.
And it's all her fault.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people don't get, and I'm going to be very, clear and a little bit personal here. Almost every woman in this industry probably has stories like that. Not on that scale, but stories like that. And that woman in that conversation probably has had a lot more incidents like that were a lot less bad, that she's just let go. And you never hear about this. You only hear about the really awful things. And that's what people don't seem to realize. And if it starts out innocent, then, you don't know that it's going to get that bad. And at that point, you're just a deer caught in headlights, and you're just trying to get away from this guy.
Yeah.
And, personally, I don't have anything as a developer. But as you know, I've done a bit of YouTube in my past. And at one point, I got this message from this guy on YouTube. And he was a big fan. And he was telling me how if I was his girlfriend, that it was a shame I was gay. I always get, oh, you're so pretty. It's such a shame you're gay. I'm like, dude, that is not welcome. But I can deal with that.
Yep.
But this guy was like, if you weren't gay and you were my boyfriend, you would have to be more than persistent to keep me off of you. So basically, this guy was saying, well, I know you're gay, but I'm going to hit on you anyway. And then basically what I'm going to say to you is that if we were a couple, I would rape you.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as what some people have, but, this is the first time I'm going public with that thing.
Yeah.
And it's not the only thing.
Mm.
And I have
It's-
also a personal background in, sexual abuse, like a lot of women. I'm not
Okay.
going to go into detail, but
No need. No
it's,
need.
it's like, stop with the goddamn victim blaming.
Yep.
Just stop.
I think it's well, it's a difficult situation. I think that Josh, I think he was under the influence of alcohol during that conversation.
Yep.
And these are not excuses. He was under the influence, so he wasn't making the best decisions. And he has been dealing with a loss, like a death in the family, which has led to additional poor decisions. And again, like, these are not excuses for his behavior. He clearly, like, needs some kind of help. What makes me happy is that he did sort of, own up to what he had said. He went out very publicly and apologized and admitted what he had done, and is trying to take steps to right his wrong. And I do really appreciate that.
Yeah, that is definitely a good thing.
I believe he is on hiatus right now.
I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
But yeah, this affects his website. It affects his reputation. It affects his website's reputation.
Also,
it affects his personal relationships with everyone in the industry. Like, he is going through, it's a horrendous, but he's going through a lot of shit because of this, because of his decisions, that I just want to be clear, like, it's not, it's like he's suffering from what he did as well.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Cart Gaming is referring to Christopher Priestman.
Priestman,
who was the co-founder with Josh Mattingly of Indie Static, and he's
quit.
gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, he left. He resigned.
He wrote a post that this was the last drop in the bucket, and apparently Mattingly, he's been dealing with grief over his lost brother, and he's been, inconsistent for a longer time.
Yeah.
And this final thing is just Priestman couldn't handle it, and he left.
Yeah. I mean, there are going to be some arguments saying that, if he was going through such a period, and if he was also, intoxicated, then why get into the discussion with the game dev while you're going through all that?
Well, he wasn't thinking clearly, obviously.
Yeah, like, I'm just being devil's advocate here. And, like, if you're going through a, great emotional time, and if you're intoxicated, then, why get into a public, well, not public, but I guess it was private conversation with a female, with any dev, not just male or female, just any dev like this. Like,
I'm not. Well, I mean, it's also his job.
Yeah.
He went too far. But I mean, any kind of stress, like, when you're stressed out is when you make when you make mistakes or have accidents, right? Like, people that are stressed out are more likely to get into a car accident. They're more likely to, like, cut themselves when they're cooking. It's pretty, like, it makes sense. Like, I think what's important is that he didn't see the warning signs, but now he does, and that's important.
Well, the sad part to me is, like, Mattingly, he did own up to his mistake, so, props to him. Yeah. I mean, he said, I didn't intend to, blah, blah, blah. I mean, intent isn't magic, but, I can see where he's coming from. Let's not stone the guy. He's withdrawn, and he's working on his issues, and he's going to make things right when he gets back to, proper normal life. But, it's sad that the person who did it can fess up to it, and there's still people in the industry who are, trying to cover for him, and who are saying, well, they're not focusing on what happened, even though this is happening time and time again, and they're saying, well, I hope Indie Static doesn't go down with Mattingly. Like, sure, that's a fair comment, but how about we, focus on the real problem here. That's what I take away from it. But maybe I'm, a bit too personally involved.
I don't know. I mean, my like I started down the journey of like gender politics years ago. So, putting myself in the position of a person that would be a denier of what happened or victim blamer, like I can't even empathize with that. But I don't know, like heteronormative gender politics is just, it's so far disconnected from how I think about life these days. I guess it comes back down to a root of sexism, which is that, well, clearly, the woman must have done something wrong to deserve this or whatever, which is like a standard kind of trope in sexist mentality. But I don't know. I mean, you can't, preaching to the choir isn't helping generally, and trying to change the minds of people who don't want their minds to be changed isn't effective either. So, like, the people that see what they want to see, like, maybe eventually they'll come around, or they will be associated with enough people who have a more reasonable perspective to be able to educate them on, like, why their line of thinking is not, like, balanced,
Well, you can see that does work, though. Like, even in our industry, if you take Jim Sterling, for example, he was a pig, basically.
Was
and
he?
Then he was kind of, I mean, it's part of his persona, but he was very much, not the way he is now, but he had a lot of in-depth discussions with people who told him you're wrong and this is why. And Jim Sterling actually has the good sense and the intelligence and the decency to listen to the counter arguments, and he switched sides, so to speak, and now he makes a lot of videos that are like, basically furthering, quote unquote, the feminist agenda. So it does work to talk about this stuff, even to the people who would normally not agree or want to have their minds changed.
I'm really, really grateful that we can talk about it. I'm glad that people are talking about it, that it went this far on Twitter, that someone saw that they were making mistakes, and that everyone's moving forward. Like, I'm so glad that this industry is so self-aware of feminist issues. And just even though it's a sad situation, the fact that we can talk about it and we can learn from it, and maybe there are going to be some people that are going to think twice before saying this or that. I'm really grateful for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You are absolutely right.
Quick question. Who is David Jaffe?
David Jaffe is the creator of Twisted Metal and God of War.
All right.
And I don't know what he's doing right now. But he was saying some really stupid shit on Twitter.
Okay.
He is not known for being particularly, positive towards women.
He said something on Twitter that was basically suggesting that the gal who was being harassed didn't give any signals that the comments were unwelcome. And I have two responses to that. One, if you look at what she does say, it's pretty obvious that she's not engaging with what he's talking about. So any excuse that she's not, like, it's not her job to make, an attacker or a harasser
back off.
Yeah, like any sensible person, I think, who's sober would take her responses as lack of interest.
Okay.
The other question I want to ask is, do women in these situations generally feel empowered to say, I don't really like the tone that you're taking with me in this conversation, or I don't like what you're saying?
No.
I don't know. I would guess that women don't, because I don't think that those kinds of things get said in those situations very often. I come it from, I'm transgender, so I grew up as a male and started transitioning at age 25 after I'd sort of lived in this world in a boy's body for 25 years. So, I feel like very empowered when someone says something that I don't like to me, to say like, you need to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, but don't you feel like it could escalate and that you could be unsafe if you say that to some guy who's hitting on you?
It depends on the situation. I've been in situations like out in the street where I was by myself and was being harassed and felt explicitly unsafe. Like it felt explicitly like I just want this situation to end as soon as possible. But online, like I don't mind telling someone to go fuck off.
Okay.
Also in person, like I also, when I was younger, I did martial arts and I feel pretty confident about my self-defense. So, I'm not so, it's not about me. It's not about me, but I feel empowered to say like, I don't like what you're saying and I want you to stop. And my question to women in the industry is, do you feel empowered to say that? And if you don't, how can we get you there? Because there's always going to be people that do continue to victim blame and do continue to put that responsibility onto the victim. And if there are women who are feeling empowered to say, what you're saying right now is really, really wrong and I don't want to hear it, then that could be a good onus for change as well.
Okay.
That's just my 2 cents.
No, they're perfectly valid. Wow, that's
But that kind of climate does need to be created by people other than the women who are saying no. Although I would, because I've been very negative about this and maybe a bit negative about the community, I do want to underscore what Samantha said, that it is good. I mean, I have a lot of respect for the indie community, and the fact that we're discussing stuff like this on a podcast, is good. And it's a positive thing that we're having this discussion, and it's nice that we are in a part of the industry that can have that discussion. Because if you look at AAA gaming, it's not even on the radar.
No, not at all. Well,
Absolutely.
I believe Samantha, you're almost running out of time.
Yeah, I should start to move out of the podcast, I think.
Okay, I think we'll call the podcast here. Samantha, Eniko, any last minute words while I show donuts?
Donuts are so good. Everyone should eat more donuts in their lives. Check out Sentris. It's available for pre-order at sentrisgame.com. And I'm on Twitter at Samantha0, Zero. And please, if anyone has any questions about Unity or music games, please tweet at me because I like to talk about that stuff.
Eniko?
Everyone should go to kitsungames.com and play No Way Out. And to all the Let's Players out there who have been burnt by Content ID, I own all the content in my games. I do not share any licenses, and I have a special YouTube monetization license on my website.
Okay, cool. You guys have been listening / watching to the Game Dev Podcast Episode 2, with your hosts, myself, Superbin47, and Eniko, with our lovely guest, Samantha from Sentris Games.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.